From a chrome duck that had to be sanded and repainted, to two people tracking down the only surviving real Mack truck that wasn't destroyed in the show, these are the 13 secret facts you didn't know about the Mack RS700. Originally, the truck had a shiny, chromed-up duck ornament, but according to a restoration expert and owner of one of the original film trucks, that gleaming chrome caused a problem. Sunlight reflecting off it was so bright that it messed with the camera shots. The only way to fix this issue was for the crew to sand the chrome down and paint the ornament silver so it wouldn't blast light back into the lenses. They even carved a little mohawk into it for an attitude, giving that goofy hood duck the ability to smash that like button, just like you should if you haven't done so already. But no, in all seriousness, this little detail gave that duck a scrappy, rebellious look that fits the movie's vibe perfectly. You might think that the iconic rubber duck Mack from Convoy is just a truck on display somewhere, but it's actually been in real-world hands since the film wrapped. For years, a small fleet owner based in Rome, Georgia, named Anthony Fox, has been the keeper of one of the original 1970 Mack RS700 trucks that was actually driven in the movie. And the cool thing is, he's not just holding onto the tractor itself. He also has the original 5,800-gallon Trailmobile tanker that was hooked up to it on set. That tanker isn't generic either. It shows the real battle scars from the high-action sequences they filmed, including dents and marks from where explosive charges and gunfire effects were staged during the bridge sequence. Like the owner said, you can build a replica truck, but you can't build a replica trailer. The trailer was actually one of 20, and it was built for a company in Washington State based on a 1960 model trailer mobile. The trailer itself had a capacity of 5,800 gallons. So even though they like to brag in the movie that they had 10,000 gallons of product, in reality it was more like 6,000 gallons. You can still see that the trailer is modified because at the top there's no spill box. The trailer only had wood on top. It was supposed to be blown up. That's why, if you look underneath, you will see that it's just a skeleton, and the trailer is completely empty. In other words, the barrel was completely gone, and this trailer was actually the one they blew up in the movie. But if you look closely, you will notice something that a lot of people don't when watching Convoy. If you pay close attention to the last scene where the rubber duck Mack RS700 gets blown up, the truck appears different. It's not a big difference, but something seems off. Well, they used two different trailers for the movie. One was squared off, while the other was curved. The curved one was the shell that Anthony Fox revived and put on his replica Mack truck. As Anthony pointed out, the trailer had mounted explosives on the back of it for the bridge scene. When the two guys run out and begin shooting at the back of the trailer, the crew detonates the explosive charge mounted on the back of the truck. But despite that initial fireball, they didn't blow up this trailer. Right after the timed detonation, the team cut the cameras and moved the hollow trailer off the bridge. They later brought in the boxy trailer and blew that one instead. That's why the empty shell that sits on the rubber duck Mack replica today is still in pristine condition. As for the other trucks from the Convoy that were damaged or ready to be scrapped, were bought by a truck owner named Fred Bruce. He had already furnished several of the trucks in the Convoy, so he bought them when the movie ended. That's why some of the trucks in the movie have his company name on them, while others have fictional names. But when it came to blowing up the bridge, did you know the film blew up a real bridge? One of the most unforgettable moments in Convoy wasn't just movie magic added later in a studio. That dramatic stunt was actually filmed on a real one-way bridge over the Colorado River near Needles, California, right where the highway crosses between California and Arizona. To pull it off safely, the Needles City Fire Department was on hand to provide fire protection while the tanker was sent careening off into the river below. And here's a wild bit of trivia. That exact bridge doesn't even exist anymore. After filming wrapped, it was removed and replaced with a newer span that now connects the two sides of the river. So that jaw-dropping explosion scene captures not just cinematic chaos, but a piece of infrastructure that today you can only see in the movie itself. And the hero truck you see cruising down the highway is a 1977 Mack RS700 LST. But it wasn't just chosen for its looks. It was a serious long-haul rig of its time. That model came with a 60-inch stand-up sleeper behind the cab, which gave truckers real room to rest on long runs. And under the hood, it had a turbocharged diesel setup that made it powerful enough to haul big loads across state lines. What's wild is that when the movie was in post-production, the sound team actually dubbed in the roar of a Detroit Diesel 5.8, so the truck sounded tougher on screen than it actually was in reality. The rubber duck Mack may have had just as much screen time as Chris Christopherson, but it's a good thing Chris didn't cause as many problems as the truck. In one particular instance, the rubber duck Mack broke down in the middle of filming. And this wasn't just some unimportant scene. We're talking about the shootout scene on the bridge where the truck has to blow past the incoming gunfire. Because they couldn't waste time and wait for the truck to be repaired, the crew came up with a different solution. They decided to push the truck across the bridge using a bulldozer. Now, if you're confused because you didn't see a bulldozer behind the rubber duck Mack in any of the scenes, that was the whole point. They shot the scene so flawlessly that you'd never know it malfunctioned in the first place. And this wasn't the first mishap on the set. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you like the video so far. One of the wildest bits in Convoy happened by accident on set. When the big truck caravan makes a sharp turn at an intersection, the white 1972 Brockway 361 truck, driven by Widow Woman, played by Madge Sinclair, actually tipped over and nearly wiped out a car in the shot. The filmmakers didn't set that up on purpose. It was just one of those things that went sideways during filming, literally. But they thought it was funny enough that Sam Peckinpah kept it in the movie. They even worked a little joke about colors into the scene to play it off, and had Widow Woman hop into another truck as a passenger so the story could keep rolling. However, director Peckinpah didn't let this incident go to waste and found a way to squeeze it into the movie because they overshot their budget by $12 million anyways. Remember the shiny, then not so shiny duck that we talked about in the beginning? Well, that goofy little duck hood ornament took on a life of its own long after the movie was made. It became so iconic that decades later, Quentin Tarantino's film Death Proof brought it back, using the same style of ornament on stuntman Mike's car as a playful homage to the original movie. Fans of both films might not realize it, but the ornament's presence in Death Proof was a deliberate nod to Convoy, celebrating that cult classic piece of trucker culture. Dan Bruno, a fan of Convoy, watched the movie obsessively and noticed something everyone else missed. When Convoy finally hit DVD in 2000, Bruno realized there was more than one rubber duck truck used on screen. By freeze-framing scenes and researching production details, he identified that the only real company name visible on the truck doors was Brune's Sand and Gravel of Logan, New Mexico. In 2005, while already chasing another truck, Bruno stopped at Brune's scale house and asked if they'd worked on Convoy. The clerk calmly told him she'd been expecting him and produced the original movie paperwork from a desk drawer. She then revealed they still had the truck. It was wrecked, abandoned, and sitting in a quarry after a 1985 rollover. Bruno later confirmed this truck was the film's second unit tractor through serial numbers and studio records, all documented in his interviews and research. When Dan Bruno first got the truck, it had been crushed, repurposed as a cement mixer after filming, wrecked in 1985, and left for decades in a quarry, using surviving frame components. Bruno merged what remained of the original truck with carefully sourced donor parts to recreate how Mack should have built the hero truck in 1977. He converted the cab, hood, battery box layout, air tank placement, and exterior details to match the movie-era RS700L configuration, even correcting differences caused by post-1972 Mack design changes. The engine sound audiences remember was never from a Mack at all, so Bruno focused on visual accuracy rather than audio mythology. Every step was guided by factory documentation, production records, and Bruno's own archival research, all detailed in his recorded interviews and museum exhibits. If you're into film trucking lore, you can actually go and see the legendary rubber duck rig in person. The surviving original Mack RS700L and its tanker trailer, the ones tied to rubber duck's big road scenes, are owned by a private family in Missouri and are typically on public display at the National Museum of Transportation in Kirkwood, Missouri, just outside St. Louis. That means fans of the movie can stroll up to the museum and get a close-up look at the Star Truck that helped define 1970s trucker cinema, complete with its famous black paint and classic lines. When the truck isn't out on the show circuit, it lives on display there. Thanks for watching. Here's another video car enthusiast loved watching.